Hello everyone, and I hope you're having a great day. I welcome you to EOS Mega Update Volume 7. Okay, and for the moment you've all been waiting for, Dan's proposal for EOS resource renting and rent distribution. So let's do this in two stages. First of all, let's do the high level approach, because not everyone wants to get down to the nitty gritty, bits, bytes, trading, this and that, understanding all that. High level overview. Dan's proposing a method separate from the whole RAM thing, that's its own thing, where we as EOS holders can take our EOS tokens and we can, for periods of 30-day increments, stake them, lock them up, and rent them out to others for CPU and bandwidth. And in doing so, we will make a profit on the renting of those tokens. And to keep it really simple again, he gives an example where as if the market valued these at a 5% interest rate, if I had 15,000 tokens and I wanted to rent them out for a month, I could make, for example, 5% on that, which would be 60 tokens. And if you do the math, so if I had 15,000 tokens, first of all, that would be $100,000. And if I made, I'm doing today's prices, 60 EOS off of renting that for 1 month, I would have made over $400 per month just renting out my tokens. That's pretty nice little passive income right there. So if you want a deeper look, now's where it begins. So as I showed you at the beginning, I made this crazy mother bleeping picture of the whole diagram of how this works. Dan does not design simple systems. He is like a beast when it comes to the underpinnings of a system. So that's the picture I drew. Here it is a little more crisp and clear. Now, luckily for you, you do not have to try to understand this drawing. This was for me only. I made you guys this drawing. And I'm gonna just step back from the camera and we're gonna go over this in full screen mode. So basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna read this article and then you guys can refer to this picture as we go through it. And I'm just hoping that this picture will paint a very clear understanding of how this works. Keep in mind that the simple flow is this is us as holders and this is the people we're renting to. And it goes from top left to bottom right. And that's how I drew this. It goes through the resource exchange, through a relay to the renters, and the profits flow back to us. And again, that's the high level overview. So let's get into this. Dan says, we present a solution for lowering the capital costs of using network and CPU resources on EOS IO based blockchains. The EOS white paper called for the ability to delegate bandwidth to others. We've all been kind of hoping we'd be able to delegate that bandwidth, and this is how it's going to happen. The ability to delegate bandwidth implies the ability to rent unused bandwidth. We have these tokens and most of us aren't doing anything with them. And in a way, that's a lost opportunity cost because there's nothing being done with these tokens. They're just sitting there. And Dan says, from this, token holders have an opportunity cost associated with not renting their unused bandwidth. Wouldn't it be nice if we could make some passive income off of the bandwidth that we're not using that maybe other people want to use? Token holders can lend their EOS at a fee in exchange for some loss of liquidity for the duration of the loan. There is no risk of losing capital to the lender. And that's very important here. At no point in this process does the loaner, the lender, the holder who wants to make that profit have any risk. There's no risk. There's only profit to be made. And that's the beauty of this system. It's a risk-free, interest-bearing vehicle. So the subsection lending tokens. An EOS holder can lend their tokens to the resource exchange and will receive REX tokens for their EOS at the current book value of the resource exchange. So on my picture, you'll notice that the purple box is what I'm representing as the resource exchange. This is what you deposit temporarily for 30 days your EOS tokens into. The REX will generate fees by lending the EOS, which will increase the book value. At any time, the holder of REX tokens can convert REX tokens back to EOS at book value. And back to the image, so here's the resource exchange, which he refers to as REX, and it's going to relay that over to the bancor relay, and I'll get into that in a moment. For every EOS contributed to the books of the REX, a number of staked EOS tokens called SEOS, staked EOS, is created. The staked EOS and the EOS are deposited into two connectors of a bancor relay. And the bancor relay is what I've shown here in the red box. So it's its own vehicle for trading SEOS, the staked EOS tokens, with renters. So let's take a quick moment and just describe what is a bancor relay. Let's find out what does that mean. How do relay tokens work? You can think of a relay token as a balance scale, with each side representing the total supply of one connector. The way to buy tokens from one side of the scale is by adding tokens to the other side. So I imagine in this case we have SEOS on one side and EOS from the customers who want to rent on the other side. The relay token does not know what the market deems a fair price for each connector. It only knows each side of the scale represents some amount of value. And they give a really good example here that paints a really clear picture of how this works. And if you've paid attention in the past, you'll notice that Dan really enjoys the bancor protocol and the bancor system. And I think this is why right here, because basically you can't buy up the entire supply. So here's the example. If we were to create a relay token named ENJ-BNT, where one connector has a balance of 1,000 ENJ and another connector a balance of 10,000 BNT tokens, the relay token will function with a value of 1 ENJ to 10 BNT, because there was 10 times more BNT tokens. If someone tries to buy 1 ENJ from the relay, they will need to send the relay tokens converter 10 BNT tokens. That's the ratio at work there. After that transaction occurs, the supply of the tokens in the relay changes, and now the relay token assumes that 999 ENJ equals 10,010 BNT, because that one trade took place. So it's a real-time, ever-evolving ratio and market value, and this is how the market value is determined, because every trade changes how much SEOS, how much EOS is on each side of the scale. The key part of this whole thing is it says, as you can see from the above example, every transaction changes the conversion rate between the connectors. This ensures that the balances held in the connectors cannot mathematically ever be depleted. As the supply of the tokens on one side of the balance is reduced, the exchange rate between the two sides increases so that it will never reach zero. So if you tried to buy up the whole supply, you wouldn't be able to, because the price would reach infinity. And that's the same system that's in place for the RAM market right now. That also is why that there's currently about a 70% utilization, because anyone who wants to buy more of that RAM is going to have to pay an ever-increasing price to buy the RAM. And that's the same system that's going to be in place with the CPU and bandwidth. So that, in its essence, is what the bancor relay system is all about. It's just keeping a price equilibrium and preventing manipulation from someone buying up the entire supply. Good, so now let's bring this back to Dan's write-up now that we have an idea of what the bancor system is all about, the bancor relay. The initial number of SEOS, staked EOS, tokens per EOS is 1-to-1. From this point, traders can buy and sell SEOS for EOS with a small trading fee, for example, 0.5%, which would be the same as the RAM trading fee. And so a borrower would buy some SEOS, paying with his EOS. In the example that we have on this picture, he would be using 60 EOS to buy 15,000 EOS tokens worth of CPU and bandwidth, but it only costs him that 60 EOS, which goes to the renter. The SEOS can be converted into delegated EOS for either CPU or bandwidth net resources for a period of 30 days. To discourage holders of SEOS from holding and never converting or selling, the SEOS is inflated. So there's a discouragement from just holding on to those tokens forever. And all fees in the system go back to the renter, to the loaner. The act of inflating SEOS generates an effective interest rate paid to REX holders, which are lending their EOS to the REX, the resource exchange. And then the REX tokens get converted back to the EOS. And it's really important to note that the EOS lent to the resource exchange does count as stake for voting purposes. So when you're loaning out your money, not only do you get the interest and payment and profit on that, but you can also still vote, which is great. And so here's an example that he creates, and that's what my picture depicts here. So it says, a trader wanting to transact once per minute would require a stake of about 15,000 EOS. which is about $100,000 as of August 2018. Renting CPU and net bandwidth resources makes far more sense for traders because they are not exposed to EOS price volatility, nor do they have expense capital costs. If we assume that staked EOS holders are renting EOS at 5% APR, then the cost to trade once per minute for a month would be about 60 EOS, or about 1 cent per trade. This is less than the trading fees associated with buying and selling 15,000 EOS, even if the price of EOS was flat. So it's of benefit to renters to use this model. Unless they have $100,000+ to buy that much EOS, they're probably going to just want to rent it for way less money, for $400, and they can get that ability to transact as if they had owned 15,000 EOS. And it says there's an automatic renewal. At the end of a 30-day delegation contract, a user can opt to automatically purchase and stake for another 30 days for a 10% discount. And I thought this was really interesting. This is the comparison of EOS's rental model to other blockchains' purchase model per transaction, the fee-based model. He says other blockchains, such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, sell their transactions based upon a per transaction fee. Using cell phones as an analogy, one could either pay per minute or pay $50 per month for a certain minimal level of service. Research shows that monthly fee models are easier to value and understand than micropayment models. Which is more palatable to users, paying 1 cent per newspaper article or paying a monthly subscription? Paying $2 per song or paying $10 per month to stream? The instantaneous fee prices on Ethereum generate high volatility and unpredictable experiences. The monthly rental of defined bandwidth provides significantly lower price volatility and more predictable user experience. And that's so true. I never thought of it this way, but basically every time you're doing a transaction on Ethereum or Bitcoin, you have to figure out the fee each time. And wouldn't it be nice if just for a simple low flat rate, you just can make as many transactions as you want and you don't have to worry about the cost of any single transaction? That's a lot more user-friendly. Fee-based models enable lower cost, short-term denial of service by pushing prices high. So this is another benefit. It is much more expensive to raise 30-day rental prices than it is to raise Ethereum gas prices for 24 hours. So because of the 30-day time period that the rentals occur for, it's harder to manipulate it. It's much more expensive to manipulate something for 30 days than it is for just a single day. So here's a high-level conclusion. This system will make EOS usable by people who do not want to have high exposure to EOS price volatility. It will create incentives to participate in the governance of the EOS network. And you'll see I have some notes here on the side of the resource exchange. So there is a 30-day minimum for loaning out your tokens. You can do it more than that, and you can do it infinitely if you want, but there's a minimum. EOS is considered staked while in the resource exchange, meaning you can still vote with it during these 30 days. These REX tokens, which I didn't get into a whole lot, are used as the placeholder for your original EOS. And these get converted back to EOS at the end of these 30 days. You must vote for 21 block producers or use a voting proxy. And one really cool thing that's actually a new innovation on this whole area is that you must vote for at least 21 block producers to be eligible to participate in renting out your tokens. You can't use the resource exchange if you voted for 20 or less block producers. And this is awesome because this is another angle, another approach for incentivizing voting for more BPs. The Telos network had an inverse weighted system. Well, it looks like EOS has its own system where you're going to be given another option to trade and rent out your tokens only if you voted for 21 or more. And this encourages voting. So if one wants to profit by lending out your EOS tokens, you better vote for at least 21 BPs. And then some notes on the bancor relay over here where it's trading with the renters. Renters can renew their rental after 30 days for a 10% discount. And that's because there's a 3-day delay from the point of finishing a rental period and being able to start a new one. And that's due to the way that the averaging works in the bancor protocol. So since there would be no 3-day wait, because you'd be continuing your contract in essence, then you get to save 10% because 3 days of 30 days is a 10% savings. And lastly, just keep in mind that the figures on this page are taken from Dan's write-up, and they're just an example. They're based on today's current prices and hypothetical market rates, because in the end, the renters, the people, the actual market is going to determine how much it values this. And it could change over time, as EOS gets more adopted, more used. Maybe a large company comes in and Facebook 2.0 wants to come and start using it. Well, the value and the demand might go way up. And so it will change over time. So maybe you won't always just make 60 EOS. Maybe you'll make 100. And if the price of a single EOS goes up to $50, let's say that you made 60 EOS on this original amount. Well, what's 60 times $50? That's $3,000 per month you could make if the price of a single EOS reaches $50 and you have staked 15,000 EOS tokens. That's a hell of an income right there. Okay guys, well that's all I have for you on this picture. I hope it was helpful. I hope it didn't confuse you, and I hope it made it a little easier to understand it. It's really just a very simple flow once you get the gist of it. You're just going from point A on the left here to point B on the right and making a profit. And I found this really awesome post on Reddit by Crypto Dapper, who asked some questions, and there's some really great responses from River Kingfisher. So I thought I'd share these because I'm pretty sure these are questions that many of you guys will have as well. So the question that was asked was, what's going to happen to already bought RAM once we switch to the resource exchange system? Will the already bought RAM be automatically put on the Rex books once it goes live? And the answer is nothing will happen. Separate resources. Resource exchange is 30-day rent for bandwidth and CPU. RAM is perpetual right to allocated storage. Different markets, different systems, no relation. So then he asks another question. He says, well, how about the already staked bandwidth and CPU? Will those resources be automatically put on the resource exchange books when it launches? And if yes, at what price? And River Kingfisher says, no, you own those. If you wish to rent them to others, you can send them to the resource exchange. Nothing changes regarding your resources unless you wish to lease your resources to others. And another user asks, can someone explain to me why was RAM not included for the resource exchange? And that's a good question. I thought the same thing, because the resource exchange has to do with bandwidth and CPU, and it doesn't have anything to do with RAM. We have a separate system for RAM, but why weren't they all just balled under the same resource exchange? And again, River Kingfisher comes with a great answer. He says, important data is stored in RAM. If you forgot to lease it again, that data would disappear. And that makes total sense. RAM stores information over a long period of time. CPU and bandwidth is a momentary, fleeting thing, and therefore they can't be treated the same way. RAM is more of an ownership model, and CPU and bandwidth can be on a rental model. So thank you very much to Crypto Dapper and to River Kingfisher for answering those questions very well. All right, guys, we made it. Thank you so much for watching. If you feel that this video has increased your knowledge, if you feel it's helped you in any way, please like the video, please share the video, please subscribe to my channel so I can bring you more updates and so that more people will see these updates, and then we can increase the appreciation and understanding of EOS as a community and as a whole. Thanks, guys. Hope you're having a great day. Take care. I'm Colin. This is Colin Talks Crypto.